Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I have a fun fold card that opens up from the front and has a place to write your message. I used the beautiful Painted Seasons bundle that is available with a $100 celebration purchase. Now it is bundled with the Painted Seasons stamp set and this beautiful paper. Look how beautiful this paper is. All these prints here with large patterns, and then this beautiful, more subtle, smaller patterned paper. So this you can get for a $100 purchase during celebration, but they also just added in that you can get for a $50 order just the paper as a celebration gift. Wasn't that awesome? Well, the paper is beautiful and it goes over the different seasons of the year, pine cones, succulents, beautiful blooms, but I was in a pink and blue type of mood today, so I stamped mine with ink colors. But I wanted to mention too that we have the 4 Seasons framelits that cut out all the images in the Painted Seasons. This one is for purchase now, so if you end up getting your Painted Seasons stamp set with the bundled paper, you can get the framelits that can be used for the life of your stamp. Awesome. So what we're going to start with is looking at another stamp set. Actually, the Lasting Lily is also a stamp set that you can get for a $100 celebration purchase, and I use the sentiments in there. I think we can't have enough sympathy cards, so I use the pretty sympathy card in there. But it also covers get well and anything that you'd like to say to somebody. So those are some awesome sets in the celebration lineup. The first thing we're going to start with is our card base. I chose to use Pool Party, and you're going to start with a 8.5 by 5.5 inch half sheet of your cardstock. All the measurements and the materials, colors that I use will be on my blog, CindyLeeBDesigns.com. Underneath my photo on the right, there's a search bar. Just put in there Lasting Lily or Painted Seasons, the name of the stamp set, and up will pop choices for you to go to this card. So the other thing we're going to be using is the Whisper White cardstock. That's going to go on the outside panel and then on the inside panel. And you'll notice this paper. It is a Pool Party colored pattern paper, but it is from my stash. I had a couple of those big 40-page 12 by 12s with all the colors, the subtle colors, and I just was in the mood for some polka dots, and so I just pulled that out of my stash. But any type of a Pool Party, or this is Flirty Flamingo here. I didn't have the Flirty Flamingo handy, but I had the Pool Party. So you could use any type of designer paper on that side, or you could actually stamp on the side. The fun thing about this is the opening on the front part and not the whole card. Okay, so let's get our pieces aside here and let me show you how we're going to cut this card so that we have these 2 edges off of here. So we're going to bring out our Stampin' Trimmer, and we're going to take the 8.5 inch side and we're going to put it up against the raised portion of that, and we are going to score at 4 1/4. Scoring blade, light gray, cutting blade, dark gray. So what we're going to do is put in the left side over to 4 1/4, and we are going to score. And while we still have that in place, we are going to take our cutting, we're going to hold up with our finger here because we don't want to accidentally cut. We're going to go up to 1 1/4 on this clear cutting guide on our Stampin' Trimmer. We're going to put the little arrow there to 1 1/4, and we are going to cut up. Then we're going to lift our guide, hold our finger under there, but be careful because I have cut right there. I actually have a little boo-boo that's healing right there from doing that. So just pull your finger over there. Now come down to 1 1/4 from the bottom, which would be at 4 1/4. Okay, so you're at 4 1/4, and that means you're at 1 1/4 cutting down. Okay, so we've cut 1 1/4 down, and then if you go to 4 1/4 on your clear guide and go down, that's 1 1/4 as well. Then what we're going to do is we are going to turn our paper with the 5.5 inch side up at the top of that raised place, and we're going to stick our right side of our paper over to 1 1/4. This little tick mark right before the dark part starts there, 1 1/4. So we're going to go to 1 1/4, and we're going to go to 4 1/4 here on our bottom where the score line is, and we are going to cut up, okay? We're going to cut up. So now we've cut off that portion there. Now we want to do the same thing, keep the paper in place. We're going to go to 1 1/4 on the left side of your cutting groove this time. We're going to do the same thing, bring our cutting blade down to 4 1/4. And then if your paper moves, just make sure your paper stays in place there at 4 1/4. So we're at the score line again, and make sure you don't cut down. We're cutting up because we want the 2 pieces to be cut off the side. And now we have our card ready to go. Let me set this aside here. And we are going to just fold over. There we go. And it would be handy to use your bone folder here and get a nice crisp fold there. Okay, so we have got the cutting of the card done. Was that easy? And you got 2 extra little pieces here. Okay, so now we're going to build up our card. Let's go ahead and start with the inside. We're going to put a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white, and then we're going to put the designer paper on the 2 sides so that they peek out when you close the card. So let me get my snail. There we go. Sorry about that. I had it on my other messy table. Yes, I will admit, it is a mess in here. Crazy. Okay, so we're just going to put, if you have this paper still from a few years back, it is great to match up with your paper. And I first made this card and I loved the words here, and I thought the words looked so pretty and light and delicate, but then my sentiment says, for the moments you can't put into words. So I thought, well, I can't really put words there if the sentiment says I can't put it into words. So anyhow, but if you choose to do that, I won't judge you. So there we go. We've got our 2 polka dot sides there, and then we're just going to put some snail, just a little bit where you might be writing, okay? And we are going to pop that in here and just make sure you have about 1/8 of an inch around your all 4 sides. There we go. Hey, why don't we just go ahead and stamp that inside, then we're done. So we're going to use the With Sympathy from the Lasting Lily, and I used Pear Pizzazz because I thought Pear Pizzazz was a nice green to go with these subtle colors. So I'm just going to ink it up without shaking my table too much. And then I'm just going to put that With Sympathy right down at the bottom. Hold a little pressure there. There we go. I think that's a little bit of adhesive there. Actually get my adhesive. Ah, isn't it nice when you think it's ink and it's just a little gummy piece of your adhesive. Okay, so now we can set this aside a second, and we're going to look at these beautiful blooms. Now, of course, I made many, many blooms. I used Pool Party for the bigger bloom, and then I used Flirty Flamingo, and then I cut some ferns. So I'm going to show you a quick way to do this. I've shown you this before, but this really worked out well for me this time here. So I brought over my Stamparatus, and you know, with the Stamparatus you can do multiple, you can die cut and do multiple stamping. So what I did was I took my Pool Party, I put a piece of white paper up in the corner here, then I did my Pool Party, I inked up my stamp. I should have my stamp set underneath here. Okay, so I inked up my stamp and I pressed it down on the white paper. And then I had a beautiful bloom there. I took this and I put my die cut around it. Let's just pop that die cut out here. I love these die cuts. They are just awesome with this set. So then I put my die cut around the bloom. I went over to my Big Shot and I came back. I had this piece of paper and my bloom. Now I'm going to save this negative, and I made sure I knew exactly which way I put it with the arrow up, and then as long as you keep this stamp in the same place, now you can't save this template once, you know, and put it on into your case for later, because you'll, if you take the ink, if you take the stamp off of your stamp apparatus, it's not going to be in the same place. And then you just cut a bunch of blank ones. Just cut a whole bunch of blank ones, pop them into that hole, and we inked up that flower, and then we just stamp down, and there you go. You can do 1,500 of these if you want to. So it's awesome that you can do that with the stamp apparatus. So I did the same thing with my pink one. I just stuck a piece in there, and then I did the same thing. I put, instead of putting the blue, and I suggest while you have these templates in and you just run off a bunch of flowers, stamp flowers in every single color. Just do a whole bunch of them, and then you can remove the stamps from there. So now we have a bunch of flowers to play with. Okay, I want to make sure I don't lose these dies. Okay, so let's look at the front of the card here. Now that I have all my pieces die cut, I also did the same thing with my ferns and these really pretty leaves. I love how beautiful and light and realistic these blooms are in the fern. Now I took a piece of 4" by 2 3/4 to go in the front here. Now I will show you that I first made this and I left it white down there and it just looked kind of empty. So then I just stamped some ferns down there. So that is exactly what we are going to do. And I have a piece of scratch paper sitting right here to do such a thing. So I don't, why is it I never want to mess up that grid paper whenever it's fine to do. It's not any big issue to do that. So I'm just going to grab the fern out of my stamping thing there, grab a block, there we go, and then I'm just going to ink up my fern. I've been running around crazy. I haven't even put my labels on, which I love putting the labels on now with these cling stamps because they work so well. So I just stamped some ferns on the bottom so that it wasn't so stark white. Look how beautiful those images are. They just look so realistic. Such a beautiful stamp set. Okay, so now we have that panel, and we can come back to making the card, and we're going to put that panel right on the front. We don't have to worry about putting anything in the middle because we're not writing on that. And then we just kind of line up the edges of the designer paper with your card, and you've got your ferns on the bottom, and then we're just going to build up our flowers. But why don't we go ahead and put our sentiment, the sympathy, the more than words can say, words can't express. Let's put that up there so we know where to put our blooms at the bottom. Have you ever did that and then you just didn't have a room for... So always when you're looking at, when you're making your card, think about what has to be put there first so that everything else will fit. So up on my tippy toes. For the moments you can't put into words. There you go. And I kind of broke my rule, and I should have stamped all that before I adhered it, because what if I mess up? Then I'm ripping the card apart. But Jesus was with me today. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to build up our posies here. And I decided to do 3 and then make him the star of the show here, and then put some ferns in and these real pretty thinner ones. So let's see how we did that. How many times are you at stamp class and you just look and look and look to find out exactly the way your demonstrator did it? Or you're watching a video and you're like, I have to do it exactly that way. So here we go. I'm going to build up that bloom there over here. And then I'm going to build up, I'm going to put, this one's going to go there. And then one's going to, okay, so why don't we go ahead and just put it down? What are we saying? Okay, there we go. I already have adhesive on it. So we're going to put a pink one there. And see how nice that fern did a background for there? We're going to put another pink one. Tuck it in. Let's see here. Get this lifted up. And I kind of want to put it in according to, yeah, almost like kind of have it like up near the words. Another pink one. And then we're going to put a pink one with a fern behind it. Again, little adhesive there. Put a fern there. Little more adhesive. Put a pink one there. Alrighty, and then we're going to play around with our pretty pool party bloom. And when I first made the card, I didn't have these pretty thin ones here, and I thought, oh, they just kind of added right to the card. So I added these thinner ones to give a layer of green on there. And then I popped up the pool party bloom. And let's see, where did those, there they are, those dimensionals go. Put one right there. And then we're going to put that bloom on there, putting it down a little bit. So take off your backs of your dimensionals so that you can have them all over your house, under your kitchen table. And then I just put that bloom right there. And then I just felt like it needed a little bling on there. The inside of this flower is a little oval, but I went ahead and stuck a pearl right in the middle there. And then I took two of the medium-sized pearls and I just added in a little bling there. There you go. And your card is done using the Painted Seasons bundle, using the, well, actually we didn't use the bundle because we didn't use the paper, but we used the stamp set, and we now have the framelits, the 4-season framelits. So if you end up getting this for your celebration, you can purchase this. And you can also do celebration with the paper. So that's awesome. So I just want to really quickly review again with you the way that we're going to cut that paper. So the way that we cut the paper is, remember, it was 5.5 by 8.5. We just put our 5.5, 8.5. Okay, one more time. We had an 8.5 by 5.5 piece of cardstock. And then we put the 8.5 at the top, and we scored at 4 1/4, okay? So we put the left side of our card at 4 1/4, we closed it, and we scored the card. Then we came back with our cutting blade, and we went at 1 1/4, and we went up. Then we came down to 4 1/4 and went down. So we were taking off 1 1/4 from each side. Then we put our card in, and we stuck the right side at 1 1/4 on the right side of the cutting groove, and we went to 4 1/4 and we cut up. Then we slid it over so that the left side was still on the left side of the cutting groove, and we went to 1 1/4. And then we went to 4 1/4 again. And then we cut up. And so essentially what we did was we just cut off 1 1/4 from the front of the card, and it gave us the opportunity to make a fun opening on the front, but also have a real pretty designed inside too. So I think you'll have fun with this bundle. If you have any questions, just go to my blog, cindyleeBdesigns.com. You can always email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com or call or text me at 724-323-2296. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.